Ethan Couch, the Texas teenager who used an influenza defense in a deadly drunken driving wreck, ran off to Mexico with his mom after a video leaked of him possibly violating his probation. We're hearing a lot about that 18-year-old, but what about his mother? What on earth was she thinking? Helping us get into the mind of Tonya Couch is Dr. Fran Walfish, a child and parenting psychotherapist. Hi, Dr. Fran. How are you?
I'm fine. Hi, Danielle.
Now, we first heard about Ethan Couch about 2 years ago. He was drinking and driving and ended up killing 4 people. His defense successfully argued he basically shouldn't be held responsible because he grew up rich and was coddled by his mother. What drives a parent to coddle their child, in this case, a teenager?
You know, in my office, the most common issue that comes through is parents today who do not know how to balance love and nurture with boundaries and limits. And that's where it begins. It begins in the beginning, early phase of toddler years. That's the first challenge for parents. And then the challenge gets greater and greater and greater, and the stakes get higher. In my world, in Beverly Hills, people call that affluenza. It's not a diagnosis. It's kind of a made-up slang term. In 12-step programs, they call it codependent. And in America, I think they call it enabling. It's really a big problem. It's the balancing. But the real question here, I think, is at what point does a loving, protective mother or parent who wants to defend and protect her child say, enough is enough, my child has to face responsibility and experience appropriate consequences. This mom has not reached that point, and therefore her son at 18 years old, who's now an adult, has really not emotionally grown up and dealt with developing coping skills for dealing with life's letdowns and disappointments.
You mentioned affluenza as a defense. Is this something we could see in more of a low-income type of family?
Unlikely. What you might see in a low-income family is what you likely would see in a low-income family is parents who don't want to say no to their child. They won't smother their children with materialistic and cash and credit card things, but they will have a hard time saying no. So you will see kids with no bedtime or very loosely set bedtimes, truancy problems, drugs and alcohol problems, because those parents, just like the parents in the rich, wealthy areas, have a hard time saying no. Why is that? I think it's because we are living in times where it really requires 2 paychecks for parents to make ends meet. And so when parents are home with their kids, they don't want to fight. They want their kids to like them. And they're having a hard time saying no.
Ethan Couch, the son, he may have ended up serving some time previously. He just got probation. But after that video surfaced of him playing beer pong, he and his mom fled to Mexico. Now his mom, Tonya, is facing more time than her kid who actually killed 4 people. Help us understand why a mother would do something like this. I mean, I think she's facing charges hindering the apprehension, acting as an accessory. Why would she go to this trouble to possibly face these charges for her son?
You know, the same kind of parallel dynamic operated in the Scott Peterson case, the parents of the man who murdered Lacey,
Yeah.
the pregnant woman, and her child. I think there is a small population of parents who just cannot tolerate having their kids face tough love, really allowing their children to accept responsibility.
Is there a psychological disorder associated with that, you think, or is that just
I
something?
thought you might ask me that. I was about to segue and say to you, I have not met these people, so it's not fair for me to lay diagnoses on them. But um, one of the markers of a narcissistic personality disorder, and I'm not saying that Tonya has that. She certainly has breeded that in her son Ethan, but there's an expectation of being treated better than others, getting more privileges than others, not having an awareness of how their behavior affects others, and also having a sense of grandiosity, being above authorities, above the law.
What are some of the long term effects if you don't hold your child accountable?
Well, one of the things is you can certainly raise a child who has the same sense of grandiosity and entitlement. If it's worse, you can raise a child who feels no guilt about his or her actions. And the clinical term for that is sociopathy, or raising a sociopath. The old term was psychopath. And the extreme version of that on the spectrum is people who lie, steal, cheat, and kill. Um, so there are a range of disorders, but the takeaway message for parents here is parents need to understand that when they set a limit and a boundary, or hold a consequence or even a punishment, if they do it without anger, but with clarity and love and support, they're giving their child an opportunity to grow. It's not being mean. And your child will not hate you and dislike you. Your child will love you more. You are giving them security.
And you're not there to be their friend either, right?
That's right.
Which I think is something that maybe was happening here with Ethan and Tonya.
That's right. You are not there to always be a friend. Sometimes you'll be a loving, supportive, good listening ear, but you're there. You know, families are not a democracy. Parents are there to make tough decisions. And sometimes it's hard to be a parent because you have to sometimes say no to the child you love. And they will temporarily be angry at you. You need to bolster yourself, stay sturdy, and know that your child will get over it. And you need to understand that you are there for the ups and downs, through the bumps, waves, and curves.
All right, we're just about out of time. Dr. Fran Wallfish is a leading child and parenting psychotherapist in Beverly Hills. She's also the author of The Self-Aware Parent, Resolving Conflict and Building a Better Bond with Your Child, a book Tonya Couch probably should read. Dr. Wallfish, it was such a pleasure having you on with us today.
Thank you, Danielle. My pleasure, too.